Okay, welcome everybody to this next session, AADGP Lunch and Learn, and the title of our program today is Let's Get Sassy. So I want to explain a bit about the title. So this is a play on the term software as a service, because our actual topic today is the use of patient membership plans in the dental office or the dental group. And that today is really a software-driven process, and hence our cute name, Let's Get Sassy. We've got a tremendous panel today, a lot of depth on this panel. So I'm going to go through a brief bio of the folks that will be talking with us today. All of these folks have some involvement with dental membership plans. To begin with, we have Dr. Jason Flanagan. He is a co-founder and practicing dentist. His dental plan is Plan Forward. Jason's very involved with state and local dental societies in the state of Indiana, and he's the dental director of the Trinity Free Clinic in Indianapolis. Also from Plan Forward is Megan Lohman. She's co-founder, CEO of Plan Forward. She leads the company's go-to-market strategy and operations, and prior to starting her career in the dental space, Megan gained business experience in medical sales, staffing, and recruiting, and she was the first employee of a sports marketing agency before that. Also joining us today, Landon Lemon. He's the Vice President of Growth for Bento. Prior to his role at Bento, Landon held multiple roles in both national and international technology firms. Also, Dave Moynihan, he's CEO of Clear. Dave has a passion for creating technology-enabled businesses that improve people's lives. Prior to joining Clear, Dave served as the CEO of FitLinks, where he created simple and affordable wearable devices, which enable patients to monitor and manage chronic conditions, and also allowed athletes to monitor and improve their performance. He was also a Microsoft employee from 1999 through 2006. And last, we have Brett Wells, who is founder and CEO of Dental HQ. He also is a practicing dentist. So I'm really glad we've got a wide variety of people coming in this space from different aspects. A couple practicing dentists, which is really cool because they're going to give us some input from the application of these patient membership plans in the practicing environment. And so, welcome everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you all. Great panel. So I'm going to start off with a really, really simple question, and that is, what is a dental membership plan? Just the basics. Dave, do you want to field that question? Tell us basically what is a dental membership plan?
Sure. So the dental membership plan at a real high level is a care plan, subscription-based care plan that dentists offer directly to their patients. And the critical part of it is that the dentist and the dental team is in control of the design of the plan, the treatment that's included, the fee schedule, the subscription price, everything, right? They're in control of the whole thing, and it's direct with their patients, and in some cases direct with employers as well. So you basically get rid of the middleman, right? You get rid of the insurer between the dentist and the patient, get a lot of efficiencies out of that. You also get better care, and you get a really nice, strong relationship between patient and dentist.
Excellent. So is there a difference between a membership plan and a discount plan?
Yeah, there's some pretty big differences. So, and I'm talking third-party discount plans. There's some discount plans I know that some dental practices offer, but I'm just talking the Carringtons of the world and those types of plans. So the big difference, a few things, right? So there is no network in a membership plan. So it's basically your dental practice offering care directly to your patients. The patients don't go to a network of dentists and pick and choose. It's directly between your practice and the patient. That's one. There's no third party managing the plan. You're in control of it, right? Like I said before, you design it, you price it. So there's no third party in between. That means there's no third party adding administration costs and taking money, right, between the dentist and the patient. The patients also, in a discount plan, are typically paying a fee to get access to discounts. In a membership plan, typically membership plans are the patients pay a subscription, but that subscription gives them treatment. Typically hygiene, visits are part of the subscription payment. So they're not paying extra when they come in to get their hygiene completed. And that creates a nice incentive for the patient to come in, right? There's no extra fee to come in and get the treatment, the hygiene. So much more simple, much more straightforward, everything tied to care, and no middleman to sort of muck it up.
If I could piggyback off that a little bit, Brent.
Yeah.
When these first started to become utilized, in the dental industry 10, 15 years ago, I think everybody sort of threw discount plan, savings plan, membership plan kind of in the same bucket. And so now a membership plan is really defined in many different ways. And to Dave's point, he said it perfectly. In our world, it's a subscription. So if you're not creating cash flow and having a card on file, auto-renewing plans, and it's creating business impact and saving patients money, it's not a membership plan in our world. So the subscription, the revenue, that's really important to differentiate, especially against like a discount plan that's not necessarily a commercial discount plan, but like an in-office discount plan where a patient might pay a one-time fee for access to discounts. I mean, that's still very different, even though it's controlled by the practice. It's very different than what we're doing, which is helping them create the cash flow and the loyalty and the preventive care recall that a membership plan truly does for the practice.
Okay, that makes sense. So, Brett, could you delineate then the parts of a membership plan? Like, are there? We've touched on this, but what are the different components that would make up a membership plan, just to be very specific?
Yeah, Brent, sure. So, typically in a standard plan, you're going to have kind of included services and not included services. So, your included services are typically your repetitive stuff, your cleanings, your exams, your x-rays, your preventative care. We have offices that'll include things like teledentistry, sometimes whitening. So you'll include services for the subscription price. Then typically when somebody joins, there'll be excluded services that you offer a discount to. Some offices 5%, 10%, 15, 20. We have some that do even more, but typically you're going to have your included services for your subscription that are, almost like a prepaid package of services at a subscription rate, either monthly or annually, and then non-included services that they're going to get discounts on.
Okay. Good.
And the one thing I would add, that was a good summary, Brett. We have some practices will actually add specialists to it, so they might have people they typically refer out on the specialist side. They'll add them to their membership plan as well, so it can sort of be all encompassing, like Brett was saying, whitening, and you do all kinds of things with them and add extras to them.
So you customize based on the profile of the practice, what you like to do, what you're able to do.
Exactly, yeah, and the profiles of your patients, what type of treatment they typically take.
Very good. Okay. Would you say that there are different types of membership plans, or as you consider what the group of you are doing, would you consider there to be basically one flavor, if you will?
In our experience, I see a full gamut. I mean, you've got your pretty typical plans that everyone on this panel is pretty familiar with. Your adult plan, 2 cleanings, exams, x-rays, maybe a limited exam and a discount treatment. Your child plan might include fluoride. You've got a period plan that'll include your period maintenances, maybe an extra discount with calendar root planning. But then, we have plans like in my office, we've got 4 locations, and we'll do like a denture maintenance plan if they're in dentures. Maybe it includes if they have implants, the replacement of the attachments on the implants. We'll do a whitening plan. We see offices sometimes will take our software and use create like a retainer club, a recurring membership plan around that. So there's all kinds of really cool, fascinating, and it's really intriguing to see some of the things different companies come up with. So there's really as a limit.
And I'll add a little bit to follow up, Brett. On average, right, we're seeing offices create between 2 to 6 plans per office now. And the great thing about what every person on this panel is doing right now is utilizing technology to make this easy to do, because I think even setting up one plan, every office is basically, I don't have enough time. I'm nervous about the first one, but every one of the tools that exist out there make that part simple so that it's not, I guess, overwhelming or scary to have 2 to 3 different plans. And, we always run up against every one of our groups is, I'm doing one, it works great for me. They say, okay, well, let's keep doing that. But how about create 2, 3 more? And they'll, anybody will throw up their hands and say, that's just too much work. And then there comes technology. And I think we're all on this call is we make it easy for these practices to build these. And then, as long as there's value there, they can actually sell them, because that's kind of the whole second part of that beast is actually trying to sell these plans and getting people to purchase them.
And just to add on top of that, like just to show some of the creativity some of these practices have and how you can customize them based on their patient demographics. If you're a pediatric practice, typically we see they'll have 3 child plans. So they'll have one for infants, toddlers, and teens. And so you can get to that side of specific age sort of related things. Another age related one we have quite a bit of is senior plans. So they'll give seniors maybe a little bit more of a discount. We actually had one group who created a senior plan. They call it the Senior Club. And they, the time that they could come, they get a little bit of deeper discount than a typical adult, but they needed to come into the practice between 1 and 4 in the afternoon. And so you can see how you get creative about it, right? And it drove their production way up. And it was just tapped in. They had a lot of seniors. And they had some time right in the afternoon, so they brought those two together.
And I think the one big point everybody can agree: customization doesn't mean more work. It's customization is just integrating it into the flow that I'm doing or their office is doing, and it's just having a little bit of a different conversation that they're already having. So sometimes I say customization, and people, that just sounds like more work. When actually it isn't. And all of us on this call, we know that because we see it every day, but it's kind of convincing that the dentist that it truly is it's not an extra work burden for them.
Well, and from a group practice perspective, I mean, sometimes what makes sense in a certain demographic or in the suburbs isn't going to make sense in a different area of the state or city. And so just because it's the same organization doesn't mean that plan has to be the exact same in each practice. These are very much per location plans. So the flexibility of it is really what's key. Again, to Landon's point, doesn't mean it's more complex to manage. It's just really, you can make it work for your business.
Yeah, that's a great point, Megan. Like what we see with the groups is you want to tailor them for the demographics of that particular location right across the group. And that's, you're going to sell more by doing that. The other thing is, you want to get the doctor in the office or the doctors in the office bought in, and one doctor might have a set of protocol or treatment preferences, where another one in a different state is going to have a different set, right? So giving that flexibility and customization at the doctor level is also important.
Yeah, that's obvious, and that the fact that again we're talking about a software-driven process. The kind of flexibility you guys are describing is phenomenal. Dr. Flanagan, do you also utilize a plan in this sort of manner where you've got different plans or different customized plans for your practice?
I do. I have 2 plans in my office. Basically, I have a perio and a regular plan, and that's where Plan Forward came from. And we got to the point where it wasn't manageable, and we reached out and tried to find a software to manage it. And at the time, number of years ago, there wasn't a software out there, and we developed it, and it made it, as we all know, manageable. So we do have a very customizable plan. Our patients love it. If I could be the only dentist, an only membership-driven practice in Indiana, I would do it in a second. Drop all insurances and just run with my membership. It would be great because of software and the ability that I have of the control that we all keep talking about.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool. What are the differences between a membership plan and an insurance plan? Obviously, the funding is we don't need to necessarily talk about that, but can anybody speak to those differences and how they exhibit themselves in the practice? How do they present differently from an insurance plan?
And I can speak to that real quick. And Dave hit it on the head. You're removing the third party. You're removing insurance. And you can talk with every dentist in the country, and one of the biggest burdens in your practice and the way you practice is insurance. And insurance doesn't dictate necessarily how we work, but it always has an underlying little thread going there. And a membership plan takes that out. And then when you talk about money, rather than the money being routed through the insurance company and the insurance company being the gatekeeper of a maximum, or if this is allowed, or you got to take x-rays every 6 months in a day, or whatever the little fine print that you see in these contracts, whether you participate in them or not, we're all beholden to those. And by being able to have a membership in my practice or any dental office, it frees you of that. And I can tell you, and I think any dentist that has a membership would tell you, in our morning huddles, when we see the little blue dot that denotes that, hey, this person's a membership patient in our office, every person in our office, from the front desk to the hygienist to the assistant to the checkout, all are like, this is awesome, because we know this person's eligible. We're going to do what's most proper for them. We're not letting the insurance dictate that. And when they check out, the patient's happy too, because they just participated in their preventative care that they've already paid for. Mm-hmm. So it's a win-win-win, and that's what a membership needs to be.
And really, the insurance company is the only one benefiting from anyone being on an insurance plan, right? So if a patient isn't utilizing all their benefits or whatnot, the insurance company collects those premiums no matter what, and they're determining eligibility for everything. They're the ones that win all around. So,
Jason and Brett, actually, I'd actually like your perspective on this. We've actually had dentists tell us that their membership plans aren't, patients aren't just the best patients as far as they come in, right? They're more profitable and all that stuff. But they said their membership plan patients are the most appreciative. And they said their insurance plan patients are typically entitled. And their uninsured typically don't come in as often as they'd like to see them. And so they feel like the membership plan people or patients are actually, they're appreciative that you're giving them something that makes care more accessible. I don't know if you guys see that in your practice or not.
Yeah, I'll give two examples. So I'm not a micromanager by any means when it comes to running my dental practices, but I do like to sit up front sometimes or in the consult room or in earshot to my front desk, and I'll listen sometimes to them. And that's how I kind of come up with a lot of the ideas with our company. But I listened to a call one time of a patient call in, and, all of us do our new patient specials, but we offer a $28 a month membership plan. That's our standard plan. And a patient called in and they said, well, we have a $28 a month membership plan. What does it include? Cleanings, exams, x-rays. The patient would not believe my front desk person that it included all those services. They kept asking what the catch was. They couldn't believe that they could come to the dentist without insurance and only pay $28 a month. So the power of creating a subscription plan where you're still particularly getting your full value out of out of all the annual payments, but breaking into a monthly, more affordable payments is really phenomenal and a huge practice builder. And another story for us, we've grown somewhat by acquisitions. Our fourth location was an acquisition. And I'm sure many of the viewers are very familiar with those. And a huge weapon we have in our arsenal when we go and buy a new practice is a membership plan. It's a value add that 9 times out of 10 isn't in place already. And so when we go to those patients and we offer this new value add membership plan for all of their existing patients that don't currently have insurance who are paying $200-$300 every time they come in, the retention of those patients is almost 100%. So for us, it's been huge value on multiple levels. Really, if you're not offering a membership plan these days, you're really getting behind the times. So it's been great for us.
Yeah, and I agree with that, Brett. And I would say the idea of a membership plan, naming it a membership plan, it's exactly what it is, but it's more of a loyalty plan. We don't have people hopping off and on. Talk about patient retention, like you just said, going in and acquiring a practice and offering them a carrot or something that actually benefits not only them, but you as the practice owner or the new owner. It does. Like you said, people are like, no way. I can't be that cheap. And you're like, no, when you really are a purchaser of dental, you're empowered. We're pulling, Megan and I use this all the time. You want to create the most transparent membership loyalty plan possible, because that's what it is. Megan always says it's got to be manageable, valuable, and profitable. And that is a true statement. And you can do that transparently.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Absolutely.
Excellent. I want to touch a little bit on potential regulation of these plans and legal requirements if one's going to have a membership plan. I'm curious, are there any specific documents or structures that need to be in place for membership plan to be compliant. And I realize that this probably varies from state to state, and I'm not looking for specific legal advice, but really something for people to consider if they're thinking of starting a plan or employing one of your companies. Are there any basic legal requirements for these things to be compliant? And
I can give a quick overview. I mean, we could spend an hour just on this topic, by the way.
I would say, Dave, you saw us all smiling. I think every person on this whole screen is just sitting here smiling at this topic.
Like,
oh God, it's going to take a while.
We're all glad that Dave's taking.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. Yeah.
Or I'm just going to say yes.
Yeah.
Yes, there is.
Short answer, yes, there are requirements.
So there's, in my sort of view, there's three levels of requirements. The first one is just federal. So there's federal laws you have to follow. Everybody knows HIPAA, right? They have to be HIPAA compliant. And that's just not the product, that's the support of the plan and, keeping people's data private and all that stuff. There's other things though, like the Stark law, the anti-kickback law. There's certain things that these have to be structured in just a way that don't, trigger those laws. Those are old laws. They've been on the books for a long time at a federal level. You just got to be careful that you don't trip them. And then you have like consumer protection laws and things like that you need to manage as well. And there's a long list, like just from that set of laws and regulations, there's a long list of things you got to build into the plans to make them compliant. If you're going to go into the employer space, so I think a number of us do offer plans into the employer space. Mm-hmm. You have ERISA and COBRA, which are federal statutes that you have to follow. The good news there is if you are going to offer employer plans, benefit plans, those state laws go away, and you just need to follow the federal ERISA and COBRA laws and regulations. So it actually makes it easier because it's one set of laws across the country. And then, so that's the federal level. At the state level, you have insurance laws, you have something called DMPO laws. You go deep into that one if anybody wants to, but that's a bit of a hornet's nest. You got to figure out. I can't remember the last time, what they're up to. Maybe 30 states have these DMPO laws, and they're really created for discount plans and companies that are third parties and networks that manage discount plans. But they do trigger a couple of things on membership plans you got to be careful about. You have state dentistry laws, you have state advertising laws, right? So there's a host of things you got to look at the state level, and each state's a little bit different. And then outside of that, you have other things which are standards that are typically national level. They're not, federal or state, but something like PCI compliant. So how you process payments needs to be something called PCI compliant. And that's just protection for the consumer when they're buying something, typically online. So it's a list of things, and like I said, we could go through that and spend at least an hour on it. But there's a lot of things you got to check the box on to put these in place.
But I will add, and this is a sales pitch to every person on this call, is all of us help every office with this piece, and all of our products out of the box are built to at least either educate and or point them the right way. Because if we didn't have that, I don't think any of us would have even gotten the first dentist to build their plan, because just the fear there. And Megan actually made probably the most important point, and this kind of wraps into the legal pieces. There are discount plans and there are subscription plans with services. Discount plans have their own legal set. If it's truly I'm paying to just receive no services or goods, just access to discounts. And then there's a whole subscription component where I'm actually paying and I am receiving XYZ. So I find that if you can make sure that when you're building a plan that you know what you're doing, that definitely changes how easy and or difficult it is from state to state. Dave, I don't know if you agree with that.
Your discount plans, especially when they're managed by third parties, that's the DMPO laws that I was mentioning sort of come into play there. And you got to be careful about what you do there. You typically have to get licensed at a state level. You also have to pay, I forget what they call it, but like a bond. You got to put a bond down and a bunch of things. And the other thing I would say is I've actually met with some of the regulators, like in California and Washington and Texas, the ones that typically have the most onerous laws. And I actually found, this sounds funny, the regulators were very open to membership plans. They just wanted to make sure they were structured properly and managed properly. I was really surprised, actually. People told me Washington State is the worst. And I met with those regulators a number of times, and the net was we came out of the other side perfectly fine, but we had to put some things in place that they requested. But they were nice people. They just want to make sure the consumers and the patients weren't getting, a bad deal.
In my experience too,
Right.
that we're all like progressing into really having laws and guidelines on the books that say, okay, if you're going to do this, this is what needs to happen. And basically the patient just really, it has to be very transparent. They have to know what they're getting. They have to know what they're paying. They have to know when it renews. I mean, they have to be able to, cancel. There are now guidelines, which back when Jason and I were in the Wild West, I'm pretty sure we broke probably every one of those things Dave just listed. But maybe we should edit that out. But I mean, now we are getting to a point where they're really in favor of these plans. They just want to be sure that consumers are protected.
Yeah.
Well, I think that was really the point of my asking this question. And for those people who are perhaps considering doing this on my own, I'm assuming and assume that all of your companies have those legal requirements in sight when you develop the plans. So yeah, just that. If you're thinking about doing this yourself, another caution to the audience, perhaps.
And yeah, Brett, my experience with the regulations and the things they're asking for, like if I'm a consumer buying something, I'm actually appreciative they're in place. They actually make sense. It's just wading through them that is, and making sure you can check the box and say, I'm confident I'm doing that. That's the key part. And but the rules themselves and laws themselves, for the most part, are very logical.
Very good.
But they do differ all over the board. I mean, they're insane. Like Megan's talking about, depending on the state, it is all over the board.
Yeah. Some states don't even care. Other states, like Washington, you got to check every box in Washington, right?
Good. Yep. Membership good.
Yeah.
Well,
Not just the United States.
could we, I want to take a little bit of a turn here and start focusing some time on the economics of a membership plan. And my first question is this, because it's personal question. How big of an impact is the membership fee to a practice, aside from all the other benefits? The actual fee that you're...
It can be huge. Megan probably speak with, I mean, everybody can speak to this, but Megan's done a few practices and can discuss how impactful these fees can be.
Okay.
I was going to say impactful, kind of define that a little bit. I mean, can you really create substantial cash flow? Yes. If you put a plan in place that's priced well, that's competitive, that covers what patients need, and you have a great, organizational tool to make it manageable, and your team is, it's easy to talk about, you're going to get patients on it, and it is going to grow. And that little, $30 monthly fee, or if they pay yearly, it is going to add up. It's just a matter of having a well-defined plan that's simple, that your team can talk about, that makes sense for patients. And then it really starts to create impact when you're paying bills, you're paying your mortgage. Now it's in the tens to $15,000 to $20,000 a month. I mean, and then you're talking percentage of total collections is recurring membership. That's where it starts to get exciting, especially from a group practice valuation standpoint. When you're cutting into revenue that maybe was either just cash or insurance, and you're shifting that to recurring predictable revenue, that's major impact.
And I think using the word impact, and I think Brett could speak to this as a practicing dentist. I mean, if your hands are not in the mouth, or you're not working, you're not really making a lot of money, and you turn this into a recurring revenue model, and that's the word impactful is impactful for me. I mean, use the last year, for example. My membership plan people, even though we gave them the option to jump off during COVID while we were closed down for 3 months, I had revenue coming in to pay rent, more than rent, for those couple months. So, I mean, that's impactful to me as the owner of the practice, because I was making money or collecting money, and these patients, as in turn for staying loyal to us, we gave them a dedicated day to come back into our practice once we opened up to get their teeth cleaned or whatever they needed to have done. So it can be impactful both financially, but also to the patients. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't you agree, Brett?
Yeah, I'd love to remind fellow docs during the COVID shutdown of how, there are two people still getting paid. It was the people who had membership plans and the insurance companies. So
true.
Good call.
so I mean, there was a benefit. I will speak just a little bit to the revenue generated. I'm sure we all have our success stories of our different clients, but we've got a medium-sized DSO who's one of our bigger clients who's driving $1 million in revenue a year to the practice, to the DSO, just for membership fees alone, not to mention all the non-covered services. So, these plans can really add up and drive revenue to a multi-location group or even medium and large size DSO. Like, it got to a point where now he's looking for ways to really get creative and drive his insured patients off of their insurance plans and really get them into this, because it's predictable recurring revenue that we all talked about, and it has just been a game changer for them. So it's very, very powerful program. I can't just say enough good things. And again, I hope to God none of us ever have to go through a national shutdown again. But if we do, we know those with the membership plans are going to be able to keep their lights on with some of those revenues.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, hey, Dave, I actually tee this one up for you, because you guys put out some of the strongest marketing here is beyond the membership plan. I mean, the success and the spend of people on membership plans outside of the plan versus a cash patient is, I think, what is it, 2x, 3x versus not. So I mean, the membership fee is great, but it's what you can expect, because that person's sort of a part of your community. And like I said, I know David and Clear have put some really great stats about this. Is the likelihood of them spending more over a period of time is twice fold, and that's a huge opportunity for every dentist.
Yeah, and just sort of building on that. So, Barry, we had the exact same feedback. A lot of practices came to us during the shutdown and said, "Thank God I have this membership plan in place." Right, it kept the lights on. And so, come back to what you were saying, Landon. So, we actually will measure the results of the membership plan. So, we integrate with practice management systems and pull their data and look at membership plan patients versus their other patients. And here's the key to it. So, what I was going to comment on was, that subscription revenue is great, and it adds a lot of value, right? It creates a recurring revenue stream. It boosts the valuation of your practice and your group. But the nugget underneath, in my opinion, is what Lane was talking about, which is by being on a membership plan and paying a subscription. So think of the other subscriptions you pay for, right? Whether it be Netflix or Amazon Prime. What happens? You use those services that you're paying a subscription to. I know there's some that sort of you forget you even have, and it's sort of in the background. But for the most part, you're using those subscriptions. And so what we see when we pull the practice management data is those patients come in when they're on a membership plan 3 to 4 times more often than when they're not. So uninsured versus membership plan patients, the membership plan patients come in 3 to 4 times more often. They get 3 to 4 times more often, or hygiene more often. And where does treatment acceptance come from? It comes from the hygiene appointments, right? So hygiene drives about 70% of all the production outside of hygiene. So the net is it's a simple sort of thing that's going on here, which is they come in more often, they get their hygiene done. When they're in that chair, they accept treatment. And so production doubles. The net production per patient is what we see on average across our practices and our groups is 2x.
Jason, actually, do you care if I share your numbers from 2019?
Yeah, sure.
Put you on the spot. His uninsured patient average spend was $172 uninsured, and his membership patient per patient average spend was $515 in 2019. That's his own personal practice. I mean, that's not just Dave inflating numbers. That's real.
And that's one practice, one location in a suburb of Indianapolis, Indiana.
Yeah.
That's all you need. That's really where that's what you have to see.
Yeah.
It's less scary when you see those numbers, in my opinion. And I'm no dentist, so I can represent them from the I know technology can scare anybody. So it's just it's not as difficult as I think people make it out to be when they face this whole area.
Yeah.
Do you find doctors wary of the discount itself when they're investigating a membership plan? And if so, how do you advise them to evaluate the impact of the discounted fees on their practice?
Well, discount's a scary word. Remember that, right? So discount.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to discount anything.
Yeah. So how do you help people through that concern?
Our biggest approach is, and We also we like to say the word negotiated rates versus discounted. It's just a happier word out there, but it's just the value. So everybody's got retail fees. You know, that's a common thing that they can either pay somebody to help them with. This that is because of the points we just made. That was Megan just told, like real life numbers. The membership plan patient paid X number of dollars more. The discounts they're not even a factor when you know that you can now have this patient coming back spending more. And all I say is, you don't have to sit here and stare at these plans and how low can I discount. It's just as long as your plan is more valuable to that person than it would be if I didn't have the plan, and that's it. And so, yes, to make it more valuable, some people could say, listen, I'm just going to bundle them all creatively. I'm going to add some special things here and there. You know, that's one way to do it, but the consumer wants value, and typically value means this costs me less to buy it versus if I didn't have it. If you can articulate that, they'll buy your plan. But any dentist that's going to that road of like they're sweating over the discounts, they're not seeing the point that Megan just made about as simple as humanly possible. The person on the plan spent X, the person not on the plan spent Y. I mean, you know, that's the true selling point. You know, and then that's how we explain it. It's not just discounted rates. It's creating value from what they would pay if they did not have this plan.
Brent, what we do is coming back to that, what I was just talking about pulling the practice management data, where we ground the practices. So the answer is yes, they get nervous about the discounts. And what we have to show them, and we show this to them, you know, once they have a number of members on the platform, and we can pull data and see a little bit of a history of these patients, is we ground it on net production per patient. So what was your net production per patient of your uninsured patients prior to being on the membership plan, and what's the net production per patient once they're on the membership plan? And that comes back to the stat I was talking about before. The actual number we have average on our platform is 2.1x. So net production for a membership plan patient is 2.1x over an uninsured patient. We have some a lot higher than that. We have some lower than that, but the net average is 2.1. And what we try to get them to do is stop. They always want to talk about write-offs, right? Write-offs. And we're like, if you have a lot of write-offs on your membership plan and it's priced right, it's discounted properly, that actually is a good thing. You're actually driving a lot more net production per patient if it's been designed properly. So I think for us, we ground it in net production per patient. We think that's the good metric to use and measure a membership plan by.
Brett, we're going to say something that looked like yours.
No, please.
If you're maybe wondering how we get them to the point of actually digesting these discounted fees, I think starting in my experience and talking to, you know, tons of dentists, first of all, if it's a fee-for-service practice, it's a much different discussion and they have a different tolerance than a heavy PPO corporate-driven practice. I mean, it's just a different tolerance. And so you have to know, is it, you know, one practice who's, you know, in network with Delta only, so they're used to about a 30% write-off, because you're right, Dave, they're ingrained in these write-offs, right? That is where their brain goes. And so whenever you say discount, they're immediately comparing to what they're reimbursed or what they're writing off. And so to start to have the conversation of where are you now? Where are your standard fees? That's a big difference. I mean, if your standard fees are in the 95th percentile, then a 20% discount is much different than a practice who's in the 80th percentile still offering a 20% discount. So I think finding that magic number is a little bit more of a conversation sometimes, because you have to understand where the practice is starting and where they're trying to go with it. Are they heavy PPO and they're trying to drop all of them and go fee for service? That's a little bit more strategic, and they're probably gonna have a different result, and they're going to be more comfortable at a different level than a fee-for-service person who's just trying to get their bottom line in order to sell their practice in 5 years.
So can you get anybody get a little more granular in that? And how would you establish the membership fee itself for a practice? What's the process of evaluating that?
Yeah, I could. Go ahead. No, Brad, go right ahead.
Yeah, you know, to speak to the discounts, another thing we like to remind offices of is it really doesn't have to be a discount. Your subscription price, at $33 a month, that's $400 a year, which is the average cost of 2 cleanings, exams, and x-rays in the U.S. What you're doing is you're creating a package of services at a monthly affordable rate. We know consumers budget based on monthly expenses. So a $33 a month, they don't realize, they don't, equate to the same as $400 a year. Mm-hmm. And so it's just much more palatable to them. And then you haven't even necessarily done a discount. So it doesn't have to be a discount. And then, I would say probably most of the audience here is pretty ingrained in the PPO world. I know at least in my offices, we take a bunch of them. And so we're used to writing off 30% on average. And so, 5-10% kicker if you join our membership plan just isn't a big deal to have to not deal with all the red tape and the waiting periods and whatnot with an insurance company. But when it comes to pricing out a plan, the way I do it is I just take what all's included, your cleanings, exams, x-rays. Typically we'll throw in a limited exam and x-rays. Apply any discounts if you want, 10, 15, 20%, divide by 12 for a monthly plan. And then we'll take 11 months for an annual plan. So you get basically a month for free. Or you could, just take your cleaning, exam, x-rays, 2 cleanings, your 2 exams, your x-rays, and not include the cost of the limited exam and x-rays, because we know only on average about 2% of people use those a year. Divide those by 12, don't give any discounts, and just assume the limited exam and x-rays are going to be a freebie that only 2% of people are going to take. They think they're getting a bunch of savings because they're getting this free limited exam and x-rays that not many of them are going to take. So there's several ways to skin a cat. It's pretty easy. You just got to figure out what you want in the plan and figure out what your economy is and make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Just that on top of that, because I agree with all that, we did a study of our practices, and we wanted to find out why were certain practices and groups selling more memberships than others. And sounds logical, right? And it's pretty straightforward. What our analysis showed was if you balance the patient value and the practice value, that's when you maximize revenue. So if it's priced too high, patients won't buy it, right? If it's priced too low, the practice doesn't make profit. Mm-hmm. And so you got to find that sweet spot in between. And we actually create an algorithm that will take the fee schedule of a practice based on the procedures they're including in their membership plan, compare it to our thousands of practices on our platform, and comes back with a sort of a spectrum of pricing. It'll say anywhere between $28 and $32 is the sweet spot for this practice. Now, let's look at the patient demographics and the goals of this membership plan and decide where we price it. Do we price it on the higher end? Do we price it on the lower end? Do we price it in the middle? That's up to the practice to decide, but we'll give them guide rails on what we think will maximize the value both to the patient and the practice. And it's an interesting sort of process to go through with the practice and sort of see how it comes out.
And talking about pricing and goals, sometimes it's so much better to take a step back and think, what are you trying to do with this plan? Do you just want to have a plan to check the box so that your retirees are happy? That's one kind of plan. But if you're really trying to create $1 million in ARR and, drive impact, and then price it competitively and grow the plan, and don't worry about every little person who might get an exam, an emergency exam and fluoride, and it's trying to get away from that what you're reimbursed for every single procedure mentality, even though that's really where dentists live, and so that's what's ingrained. But so it's a little bit of a mind shift, and knowing where you're trying to go with it will help when you sit down to have the pricing conversation.
Megan, are you accusing dentists of having OCD?
Dentists are wonderful, and I really enjoy working in the dental industry.
I appreciate that.
Well, can we talk a little bit about some strategies to roll out a membership plan at the practice level? Thinking about how we approach the patients. Are there any sort of marketing strategies that are really effective for rolling out a practice? How does that look day one?
Yeah.
I can speak from my own experience.
Yeah.
Word of mouth is huge. If you create a good plan, it's like anything else. If it's a transparent, good, valuable plan, word of mouth spreads really quick. Number 2 in my practice is hygienists. The hygienists, as I said, they're the engine to a dental office. And if the hygienists are able to practice the way that they want to, and you don't put burdens like, no, you can't do fluoride this time, it's in 6 months, or you make sure you schedule them 6 months in a day, otherwise you're in trouble type stuff. If you can remove that burden, hygienists will sell that all day long. So number 2 is hygienist, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree on that word of mouth. And the guidance we provide our practices is start internally first. So brochures, you get posters, buttons, things like that. Have the team talk to the patients who are coming in the door, get comfortable with it, so to understand how it works, make sure you know how to explain it, things like that. And then move towards external. So if you want to do social media, that can work. If you want to do retirement communities, things like that, obviously your website. But coming back to that, what we see is the most important is also the team talking about it. What we learned actually was that it really matters that the person who's talking about it, given their position in the practice, talks about it in their sort of terms and in the way they think about it. So like the front desk talking to the patient would be about, hey, I always wanted to get you affordable care. We now have this membership plan that will give you the care you need, right? And I'm happy I can now offer this to you. It's an affordable way, simple way for you to get access to your care, where the hygienist might talk to the patient about, hey, I know you're going to come in more often, right? It's going to improve your oral health, right? Mm-hmm. It'll keep my chair busy. Like those things the patient wants to hear. We actually did some market research on that. They like to hear that they're helping the hygienist, keeping healthy and all that stuff. And from a dentist perspective, what we actually learned that resonated with the patients was, hey, a lot of my patients have insurance. That's a hassle for the patients, a hassle for me. It costs us a lot. I can't give you the care that I know you need, right? Because it's controlled by a third party. This gets rid of all that. I can provide care directly to you. We can make decisions together, and it gets rid of a lot of costs. So that's why I can offer it, right, at $30 a month. And that really resonates. So talking from your heart and your position in the practice we saw resonates really well with the patients.
And one thing we did, I think we all face this challenge. Is just like, great, I have a plan now. How do I sell it? That's pretty much where most people struggle, in my opinion, especially if they're over the hump. Is one thing that Bento coined was the sort of the FINDS method. Don't do anything different. Is find the patient, they're there, right? Identify the needs, right? And this is just FINDS. Identify needs. How do they make decisions? And Dave just said that. How do we make the decision together? And this, for anybody in the office, it's not just the hygienists or the doctors. The front staff, every single person in the building can have this conversation. The funny thing is they're just missing the S part of FINDS, which is present a solution to them versus say, okay, well, we'll just keep kind of doing what we're doing. And so, that was a huge, I think it's just simplifying that every person can be a salesperson, and it's not, shouldn't be too intimidating. It's you're already having these conversations. I think just at the end of it, no matter who you are, just present a solution that makes that person excited or feel at ease that this works for them. And that's the approach. The marketing stuff is a whole nother a can of worms and can get from A to Z, but that's the general philosophy that at least we take.
So I did this in Jason's practice. I was his receptionist, and then I was his financial coordinator, and we created this plan. I created a brochure. Number one, you don't need some massive marketing campaign and a whole suite of things. You need to sit down, and you have to have a compelling price and a good plan, and it has to cover their preventive care. And they have to save money on the plan. Then you have to have a pricing brochure and a way for them to sign up. And then you have to make sure that the team believes that this is a really good value, and the team on board. And then your patients are going to come in, and they're going to be calling, and they're going to be asking about it. And so as long as you believe in it, that it's the best investment for their money, because we all know where all the other commercial plans and AARP and all those plans are lacking. This really is the best dollar they can spend for their oral health. And so as long as you believe it and it's a well-structured plan, you are going to have no trouble. And you don't really have to sell. It is not their job to sell. They have to present the information and let the patient make the decision. It is not rocket science. And they will be, to whoever said it, they will be so appreciative that you have something, because then they can check the box and stop worrying about it. They don't have to feel like they don't have dental insurance. And what do they do? Because they don't know what to expect to pay when they walk into your office. So they'll be very appreciative.
And Megan, if I could just add to that, take that one step further. I think everyone on this panel can agree, as we deal with dentists all over the country, there's one overriding factor that we found is more important than anything, and that is what you just said: training your team and having bought in. We had a practice that after 3 months of launching their membership plan had over 700 members, and we were like, wow, what is going on? So it was a local practice. We actually went into the practice and just spent the day listening to them and what they did. And I mean, pricing's important, savings are important, all that stuff's important, but nothing is more important than what this practice did, which is every single person in that practice mentioned to the patients about their membership plan. Hey, we've got this great plan. They all believed in the benefits of that membership plan. And at every level, from hygienist to assistant to front desk, answering the phone, they talked about that membership plan. And our practices that have buy-in from the team are by far and away, and I'm sure everyone will agree with this, are the practices that are by far the most successful with these plans. So if you do nothing else, train your team, get them bought in, help them understand why it's such a valuable part of your practice.
There's nothing more difficult than having a really excited dentist and like the office manager that is just stonewalling it, right? And just throwing cold water on the deal, because that really hinders the success of it, or vice versa. The office manager is really excited and somebody else is just not. I mean, the team on board, that is a great point. It's not rocket science as long as they're on board and they're talking about it. And you said, hey, we got this great plan. I mean, it's the way you present it, not, oh yeah, we have this plan if you don't have insurance. I mean, be enthusiastic about it and, be confident in this plan that it's a good thing, and you'll have tremendous success.
It's a solution for them. That's all it is. It's a solution for that person,
Totally.
not a negative or a burden. I hope it's not a burden, but it should be a solution.
Yeah.
What about taking these plans to employers and small businesses? If I've got a plan in place right now, is that the same thing I'm going to take out and present to a small business owner, or is that a different animal? Anybody, any?
Yeah, I'll start with that one. Bento started on the employer side. Actually, it was the second piece. We went into this crazy world of dental membership plans. It is a little bit of a different animal with the employer groups, because you're getting into the more a benefit space, right? There's a huge element to the employer world is, does the employer want to contribute something or not, right? If the employer wants to give or provide a benefit for their the employee, that's kind of its own regulations, rule, different kind of a sales cycle. If they're not interested, then it's simply just it's a marketing opportunity for your practice. Right. If there's a senior home across the street, if there's a construction company, mom and pop, there's a perfect opportunity to create a membership plan and look at that exact business. Like, this is a solution for your folks who may not have a benefit from your employer. This ties perfectly into just presenting a solution to them. They might not have dental benefit. Their employer may not want to provide it or can't afford to provide it. With these plans, you can customize the name, right? You can customize the services that may target their audience. That's the beauty of this, and you can go directly to these employers. I think if you do venture into the road of helping the employer or the small business actually create a plan, it's just a little bit of a different piece. And of course, what we see is typically larger practices, DSOs types, they've got the infrastructure and the business resources to try to go down that road. It is very tough for a small practice to have the resources to help sell a dental benefit, because you're talking the same world of brokers and benefits and things like that. And that's that slight nuance for the offices. But the quick opportunity is just look around your practice, look at the businesses. Do they have a dental benefit or not? If not, can you provide a solution that really gets them happy, and you're making that benefit exclusive to your office? That's really the way we position it.
Yeah, so just from a numbers perspective, 63% of small businesses don't offer dental benefits, so 50 employees and less. And so think about your dental practice in your groups. How many businesses that have 50 employees and less are around your office, right? Within 5 miles of your office. It's a lot. It's probably thousands. And 63% of them don't offer dental benefit, but it's the number 3 benefit asked for by employees. It's right behind healthcare and 401k or retirement savings. So it's a big need for an employer that small business doesn't offer, but they would like to, and they need flexibility in funding it. So their contribution amount, the problem with dental insurance is they typically have minimum participation requirements, minimum funding requirements. And small businesses now have a hassle to manage. They got to get a certain amount of employees on that plan, or they have to, fund it to a certain level. What we do is you can create a membership plan just for employers, and you have another membership plan just for consumers, and you can design them the same. You can design them differently, but the infrastructure is a little bit different. On the employer side, you have to do, like I talked about with regulations, it's got to be ERISA and COBRA compliant. So you have to do things like there's got to be a plan document in place that the patient can reference or the employee can reference and see how, if they have a dispute, how do they handle a dispute? If there's an issue with a benefit and they thought they had one, but they don't, how do you manage that? And so it's actually like a 25-page document that you have to give to the employee, and the employer gets a document as well. So there's some infrastructure things you got to change up, but the membership plan itself is very similar. There's only one difference from a functional standpoint, which is the employer can contribute to the plan. So in our example, the employer can say, I'm going to give $100, or I'm going to give $50, or I'm going to give $200 to my employees to spend on that membership plan. And then we just net that out from the fees, the subscription fee for the membership plan for that practice. So very similar, 80% overlap when you look at the two of them, but then there's nuance you have to manage for one versus the other.
And if I could just step in here real quick. So exactly what Dave said, and we've launched a solution for this, and so we've gotten some data from that over the last year. And it is a bit overwhelming when you're a small dental practice trying to go to the community and find these thousands of businesses that don't offer dental insurance to their employees. But what you do have in your practice are you have an orthodontist who refers to you, whose employees need dental care and he can't provide it. And so we have the biggest orthodontist that we work with has over 50 employees. He has an employer sponsored membership plan to my practices where he subsidizes part of the cost of his employees' plan. So that was an easy connection to make, low hanging fruit. We've got employees who, we've got patients, and some of our practices have patients who maybe own a small accounting firm. And because you have that relationship with them already, maybe they have 5 or 10 employees who they've always wanted to offer dental insurance to, but just never did it. And now you have this great solution for businesses. So, there are easy ways to do it. There's low hanging fruit. And then there's, kind of the higher hanging fruit of all the businesses around you and kind of cold calling and showing up and having brochures available to take to them, which is certainly effective. But for the smaller groups and single locations is difficult, but there's all kinds of opportunities in your practices right now to make those connections, make them really easy.
Yeah, it's a great point, Brad. Like the way we coach our practices is just talk to your patients. Like we were talking about before, right? About, promoting a membership plan to your patients. Just ask them, who do they work for, right? Do you have dental benefits? You'll be surprised that there's, executives and owners of small businesses who come into your practice, on a weekly basis, and or people who will connect you with them. Just
do what you're already doing. Do what you're already doing and just gather that information.
Is there any way for a membership plan to augment somebody's insurance plan if the insurance plan is, say, quite poor, or does dental insurance preclude the use of a membership plan with the patient?
It's complicated.
Well,
I was just going to say it first, but it's complicated.
So, this is my experience. I'm not an insurance agreement expert, but I've read a lot of them. I probably read 30 of them. And people think they say things that they don't, is sort of the net. And so there's this thing out there that you can't offer a membership plan to an insured patient. I've yet to find it in an agreement. I've read 30 of them.
Well, I have read probably in the hundreds of them because we started on the insurance side. There are certain states and or certain insurance companies. I will not say names on this call. Everybody probably knows who they are, but they will try to put disclaimers in there that you cannot offer any sort of membership plan that would interact with their negotiated fees. What that means is gray. But if you are and this is only for offices that are participating in certain networks, I've seen it, and it's only for specific states. This is probably another conversation that could go on for a while, but and there are a lot of legal battles going on right now of how an insurance company can dictate what they can do outside of the network participation. So this is a very ongoing fluid thing. But yeah, there is I have seen it where, yeah, if you're participating in a certain network, they would not allow you to offer any sort of discount or plan that could ever compete with their plan. That is all I'll say on that topic. But it is a very gray area because dentists are fighting it like no other, because it doesn't make sense, even in my eyes. What you do outside of the network participation is your business. It's you own that practice. So, that's a little bit of, I can go into it more if anybody has some specific questions, but it's a little crazy.
And there's things in there you'll see, like if you're going to give a fee lower than the negotiated fee, you have to give the insurer that fee, right?
Right.
Like
Yes, it's some shady stuff.
Yeah, well, the problem is people will extrapolate that to, I can't offer a membership plan. And that's not what the intent is, and it's not the insurers don't have the ability to stop that. So I've yet to find an agreement that say don't do a membership plan. But coming back to the question, Brent, is as far as does it make sense to have a membership plan and an insurance plan at the same time? It's really rare when it makes sense to do that. So you got to look at the individual patient and understand where they are. So the only case we've seen where it made sense is where a patient is 3 months in or 4 months into their insurance agreement, they topped out at their annual max, right? So they can't use it anymore. And they have a lot of treatment they need to get in the next 9 months, and they want to get that treatment. Okay, that makes sense, right? But you really need to look at the patient level and decide, does it even make sense to move forward with it? Because most of the times it does not.
I've read
major work to Dave's point is where we see it. And then also the cosmetic stuff, whitening plans, things like that. No insurance plan covers any of those items. So we'll see, that I've got a traditional plan, but I also want that whitening membership plan or typical, like those type of cosmetic areas. That's the most common to be pushed together.
We've had conversations, and I remember this was a while ago, so it honestly could have changed. But the biggest kind of issue for the insurance companies and kind of the regulators is collecting membership fees for something that you're also submitting claims and collecting reimbursement for. So that's sort of seen as double dipping. So if you're submitting claims for the same thing that you're collecting membership fees for, your cleanings, your exams, your x-rays, that's where you pose maybe some potential conflict. So again, that was a long time ago. If it's Dave's example, there might be some very specific cases where it does make sense and it's, you can do it, but rarely is that the case. And just to be on the safe side, just say, drop your insurance and join our plan next year.
Yes, I would second that point in a heartbeat. Yeah.
Sounds worthless, drop it.
Yeah, right.
Because
100%.
Use it, and it's March 30th.
Right.
That's right. Right, yeah.
And one kind of creative approach here, Brent, for offices to consider is, you've got your insured and network patients, like we have PPOs, and then you've got your membership patients who get a discount in your membership plan, but then you've got your out-of-network patients who get no real discounts. Mm-hmm. And so one idea we've had is you could create like an annual VIP plan, maybe $49 a year, and give them access to your members' discounts. Maybe it includes teledentistry or something, just to give them that little bump of a discount. I get a little nervous when you talk about in-network patients, but if they're out of network, they're joining maybe a VIP plan that includes teledentistry or whitening or something, and it gives them access to those discounts. It's just a little way to get a little extra to get your insured patients onto your membership plan.
That's probably going to help your treatment acceptance too. That's super creative.
Yeah, thank you. Good. What would you guys then consider the potential impact for our audience in enterprise value for a practice to have a membership plan? What would you expect? And can you give any case studies of groups that have really improved their value with a membership plan?
I haven't seen a group sell, using their membership
too
plan
early.
as a value driver. So I'll tell you what the math looks like potentially. I don't have an example. So on average, what we see is about 25% of patients are uninsured in a typical group or practice. So 25% is sort of the common number. So, and as I talked about before, when we see a membership plan, a patient move from uninsured to a membership plan, the production increases by 2x. Okay, so you got 25%. If you get them all in a membership plan, you've doubled that production for those uninsured patients 2x. And then you get that recurring revenue stream going for those patients. That recurring revenue stream is actually valued at 3 to 5 times non-recurring revenue. That's a typical metric. I've had a lot of experience with this on the tech side. An investor will pay 3 to 5 times more for that subscription revenue than they will just non-subscription revenue. So if you do all that math, you have 25% uninsured patients, you convert into a membership plan, they double their production, and you have a subscription revenue coming in that's recurring and gets a 3 to 5x multiplier. You can increase the value of your practice or your group by 50%. That's just how the math works, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not saying the math has been proven in real life, but that's the math.
I don't think any of us have really been able to really see a case study come to fruition with enough time to where you have data from pre-membership plan to then time for the membership plan to grow to where you sell and you actually get true valuation metrics on both ends to have a case study. But Brett, you also touched on patient retention. And so when you sell, you naturally factor in a % of attrition of patients. Well, if you can argue against that, based on our membership plan, you can assume you're going to retain X number of these cash patients. I don't have a number either, but that's also driving.
I was going to say, Brett, that office that's generating about $1 million in recurring. I can assume the value of that practice is probably quite high and going up on the regular.
There's a lot of them, but I mean, I was really hoping Dave was going to have a case study because I am, but I'm like, I want to hear it because I think it's just too new. But I think in the DSO space, membership plans haven't really factored into valuations. I think anybody listening to this, knows that. But one thing that does factor into valuations is growth and how fast you're growing. And it is very apparent. We all know that membership plans help your practice retain patients, which allows you to grow much faster. As Dave said, a membership plan patient's going to spend 2 to 3x in your practice than a non-membership patient. So it's going to drive revenue, which is then going to drive EBITDA, and it's going to drive growth, which are factors that any large company is going to look at in evaluation of a multi-location practice.
Hey, Brent, I don't have a case study. I would love to have one, and I would share that across the industry because I think it's awesome. But here's my anecdotal why that actually people believe it is. I actually meet with the private equity firms behind a lot of these groups, and we sell them on the membership plan instantaneously. The PE guys get it.
Yeah.
And they understand the value of recurring revenue, and they are confident, on the exit, they'll be able to get a multiple. Will they get 3 to 5x? Maybe. I don't know. But they know they'll get multiples. So that recurring revenue, if they have a history of it, right? You need a history. You also need a high renewal rate. So they don't want to see that you're just churning and burning the subscription, right? And only 20% are renewing. You need that renewal rate up to 70, 75, 80%. That's when it becomes valuable. So time and high renewal rate on subscription revenue gets you the multiple.
Totally makes sense.
And that speaks to everything that we do with the software. Because
I was going to say that you just described a SaaS business too, so that's
tying it all together.
That's right. Exactly.
Hopefully, what people watching are, there's not much argument that this, if you're not doing this at whatever capacity, there's a really big missed opportunity, and it is just going to be. It is the norm. It's you gotta have one.
No, I think all have made the case very soundly tonight. So I thank you. Yeah. Fantastic. Okay, well, we're at that hour, 10 minute. So I think we can wrap unless anybody's got something to add that I've missed out on.
Thanks for bringing this together, Brent. I enjoyed this conversation. It's rare that we all get together and talk about this.
Yeah.
It's great.
Oh, yeah. We hear about all the players, to actually see and talk with each of you.
It's fun.
It's an honor. I really appreciate it. It really is educational. Hopefully for you guys, it's much more for us.
Hey Brent, we just threw some resources together based on how this conversation might go for anyone in your group. It's at planforward.io/AADGP. if
Okay.
anybody wants to jump in, it's just kind of a summary of this collaboration. So hope it's helpful.
Thank you.
Great.